Why do thousands of tourists die every year? It's not just dangerous countries, diseases, or the troubles that await us that are to blame. First and foremost, we ourselves are to blame. We take travel and preparing for it far too lightly. In 2024, 12.5 million cases were registered of deaths from dengue fever, and this number has doubled in just 1 year. The number of deaths from cholera has increased by 71%. These are just a few numbers that show how serious the problems we might face in different countries can be. We tend to think that this happens to someone else, but when we come face to face with it, our attitude changes. A friend of mine didn't get treated for malaria, which he caught in Indonesia, and now he has to live with this disease for the rest of his life. He also took it too lightly. In this video, you'll learn which medicines you absolutely need to have in your first aid kit, which vaccinations you should get in advance, how to arrange insurance and use it properly, and what to do in case of food poisoning. These are my 12 health tips for traveling. First, know your own body. You should know yourself better than anyone else. Before your trip, if you're planning to travel, go see your doctors and get a checkup. It's better to hear about any issues from a doctor you know and trust than to run into them while traveling in a foreign country in some unfamiliar hospital with doctors you don't know. If you have any special conditions, chronic illnesses, or allergies, take care of those in advance. For example, I know that I always get sunburned, so I always take sunscreen with me on every trip. And yes, if I forget to put it on any part of my body, I immediately run into problems. For instance, on Socotra, I forgot to put sunscreen on my feet. I was walking around in open, woven sandals. Everything got sunburned on the very first day, and for the rest of the trip I couldn't wear shoes because the skin hurt so badly from the leather straps rubbing against it. You know yourself better than anyone else, so please take care of your chronic conditions and personal needs. My second tip is to make sure you get all the necessary vaccinations in advance. Take care of that ahead of time. Check which vaccinations are required in the countries you plan to visit. For example, in many warm, exotic, equatorial, and tropical countries, a yellow fever vaccination is mandatory. If you're traveling to one of these countries, make sure to get it in advance. In addition, many countries require vaccinations for hepatitis A, hepatitis B, typhoid, malaria, tetanus, and diphtheria. Third, get and always carry travel medical insurance with you. Don't treat this as just a formality. There are cheap insurance policies that won't actually help you much if you need assistance. Carefully check what your insurance covers. What level of clinics are covered? In some countries, there are hospitals you wouldn't even want to set foot in. If your insurance company sends you there, you won't be happy about it. Next, what situations are covered? What services are included? What doctors are available? For example, does your insurance include helicopter evacuation? For example, when I was in Hong Kong, I witnessed an accident where someone fell off a cliff. A medical helicopter was needed to evaluate him. So, think about it. If you end up in a similar situation and a helicopter comes to get you, how much will you have to pay if your insurance doesn't cover it? Make sure your insurance includes repatriation. Yes, repatriation of the body. First and foremost, think about your companions, friends, and family, because dealing with transporting a body to another country is a huge hassle and extremely expensive. Check the exclusions. For example, in many insurance policies, assistance is not provided if you were engaged in any kind of active sport, mountaineering, rock climbing, skiing, or anything like that. The list or range of exclusions can vary a lot. So, for example, if you're going to a ski resort but your insurance doesn't cover active sports, then it will be useless for you. Check and pay attention to how the insurance company treats alcohol intoxication. Anything at all can be considered alcohol intoxication. You had a glass of wine with lunch, and then something happened to you afterwards. They did an alcohol test. You have some amount of alcohol in your blood. That's it. The insurance no longer covers this case. Don't rely on the insurance offered by the travel agency. Get your own insurance yourself. There are a huge number of insurance companies in every country. They have a million options. Choose for yourself. Don't think that the first and cheapest one you find will be a great insurance policy. Most often, it actually won't be a great insurance policy. Take this more seriously. Be sure to pack and don't forget to bring a first aid kit with you. I probably won't list the full contents for you right now, but what types of medicines and medical supplies do I take with me? First, painkillers. Any painkiller that works for you. There are a million options. Choose what suits your body. Second, fever reducers. If you have a high fever, things are really bad. Speaking from personal experience, I once traveled around Vietnam with a 40-degree fever. The feeling is indescribable. You have 40 degrees inside, and it's 41 outside. And so I was walking, and I felt like a camel crossing the desert. I couldn't feel my body, I couldn't feel my legs, and it was like my body was just moving on its own, out of inertia. At that moment, I didn't have any painkillers with me. You should always have them on you. Medicine for stomach issues is a must. These can be simple things like smecta or activated charcoal, but I also recommend having stronger medications because food poisoning and foodborne infections are things that can, unfortunately, happen to you quite often, especially in exotic countries. There's a great medicine called resfural. It works like magic, seriously. Without it, I honestly don't know how I would have survived in some countries. So write this down. I'm really recommending it. A must-have in your first aid kit is antiseptics, chlorhexidine, myrmidon, or something similar. You won't always have the chance to wash your hands before eating, and you won't always find napkins or wet wipes in all those little restaurants and cafes. You'll need band-aids, bandages, and antibacterial plasters too, just in case something happens, like a cut, a sprain, and so on. Don't forget about your allergies. If you have allergies, make sure to bring the medications you usually use. If you don't have allergies, it's still a good idea to bring some standard antihistamines, just in case, because you never know what your body might react to. Maybe there's some flower blooming in that country that you've never encountered before, and your body reacts to it. Insects are a super important topic. Especially remember that insects are carriers of a million different, very unpleasant diseases. That's why you need remedies for insect bites and definitely a repellent, something that keeps insects away so you just get bitten less. What else do we need to have? Cold remedies, starting with the basics, some nasal sprays, some verb lozenges. If possible, take some antiviral medications. You need to have something for burns, and if your skin does get burned, which happens very often in the South, under strong sun, you need to have things for sprains, bruises, ointments. I highly recommend something for motion sickness. Yes, you might think that you don't get motion sick. I used to think so too. But once, when I ended up on a boat in the North Sea trying to watch whales, I realized that I actually do get seasick, and my companions, who had taken their pills in advance, were enjoying the sight of sperm whales surfacing, while I was, excuse me, hugging the toilet on board the ship. Out of those 3 hours, I spent 2 in that exact state. Don't forget about feminine hygiene, because more than once I've seen those days come unexpectedly. And instead of enjoying the scenery, my wife and I are running around trying to find where in these jungles we can buy tampons. Water purification tablets are also very useful, especially in places where the water quality is poor. If you're, I don't know, spending the night in the forest, in the jungle, in places where you have to get water from streams, lakes, or small rivers, just drop one of these tablets in and you'll feel much safer drinking that water. It might seem like this is too much. I've listed so many medications that it seems like they wouldn't fit in any bag. But in reality, that's just an illusion. By saving just a tiny bit of space and not packing some blister pack or a small box of pills, you could end up losing a day, 2, 3, or even a week of your trip, all because you tried to save space. So don't try to save space on this. This is super important. The 5th point is very important. Only drink safe water. Safe water usually means bottled water, and specifically water that has been bottled at the factory. If someone pours you this water, they should open the bottle in front of you. Otherwise, you have no idea where it actually came from. Avoid ice cubes, because usually that ice is also made from regular tap water. I personally saw in India how, in a restaurant kitchen, waiters would pick out the ice cubes that didn't have cockroaches frozen inside them. You have to understand that nobody really cares about your health. Don't drink fresh juices or freshly squeezed juices in unfamiliar places. Often, you're walking down the street in a place like Ho Chi Minh City, Bangkok, or somewhere else, you get thirsty, and there's a stand where they squeeze juice from some fruit right in front of you for you to drink on the spot. Think about how many germs are on the equipment they're using. So only go for them in clean, trusted places or high-end restaurants. The same goes for fruit. Fruit that's cut up by a vendor at the market. No, you shouldn't eat that. Don't eat pineapples that have been cut into pieces. Don't buy watermelon halves or quarters, even if you can't finish a whole one, because you have no idea what kind of knife was used to cut it. Most likely, it wasn't very clean. Wash all fruit yourself, and make sure to use bottled water, not tap water. When you wash your face, especially when you brush your teeth, only use bottled water as well. Have a special bottle of water. Buy one, spend the money. Seriously, in these countries it costs next to nothing. Spend that small amount of money to stay healthy and have peace of mind about your health while traveling. Sixth, follow food hygiene rules. Yes, you want to try all sorts of exotic foods, but it's best to eat food that has been thoroughly cooked. Something fried, something boiled, that's fine. Raw, undercooked, or not fully fried food, even if it's a local specialty or some unique dish, I don't recommend it because in warm climates, especially, parasites can develop in meat, fish, and seafood. You just won't be able to get rid of them from your body later, especially if you bring them back to your own country where people aren't used to dealing with these parasites. Yes, you can try something unusual, something half raw, undercooked, or not fully fried, but please, I beg you, only do this in good, reputable, expensive restaurants where you can be absolutely sure that proper sanitation has been followed. Be careful with street food. No matter how much you want it, no matter how tempting it looks, no matter how much you're drawn to something exotic. I remember those scorpion skewers in Thailand. Yes, I really wanted to try them. In Myanmar, there was this seasoning made from dried ants that added a tangy and slightly bitter flavor to every dish. I really wanted to try that too. But remember, you can easily pick up all sorts of nasty stuff along with that exotic food. Is that really what you want on your trip? Wash your hands regularly, especially before eating. But in many countries, that's not the norm. In India, whenever I ran off to wash my hands before every meal at a restaurant, people looked at me like I was crazy. There's another thing. In many countries, it's considered a gesture of hospitality when the host takes food from a shared dish with their hands and serves it onto the guest's plate. But the thing is, he didn't wash his hands before eating, and then you might see, I don't know, maybe his hair that fell into the dish, or something else pretty gross. Politely try to avoid this. Say something like, sorry, where I'm from, we do it differently. I prefer to serve myself. Explain this to them. People might look at you a little funny, but at least you'll know that your host's germs didn't end up in your stomach. Protect yourself from insects. Remember, the most dangerous creature in the world is the ordinary mosquito, which carries a huge number of diseases. That's why you should remember to use insect repellents, mosquito nets when you sleep or on windows. Try to choose places to stay that have them, and wear long-sleeved clothing. Although, well, from my personal experience, there was a time I put on a special protective anti-tick suit with long sleeves, elastic bands on the wrists and ankles, soaked in a special solution, and yet I ended up picking up more ticks than anyone else in the group. So yes, clothing helps, but you shouldn't rely on it completely. Avoid contact with animals. They seem so cute. You just want to, I don't know, touch them, pet them, feed them, cuddle them. But in reality, most of the time, they're wild animals. I remember in Argentina, we came across some cute, fluffy animals called coatis. And we thought, oh wow, they're so adorable, let's take pictures with them. There were some tourists from France, I think, in our group. And then these coatis attacked the tourists, grabbed their picnic bag with their paw, and in an instant a whole pack, maybe 15 of them, swarmed in. In literally a minute, they tore all the packaging to shreds, chips, sandwiches, whatever was there, and ate everything in, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds. And the tourists were like, That was our lunch for the whole day. We wanted to walk around the park and eat all of that. Well, there's really nothing more to say about monkeys. In Yemen, I talked in a video about how a troop of monkeys attacked us, took our food, and ate it right there. Monkeys love to steal cameras, phones, hairbrushes, and combs. Anything they can steal from you, a monkey will try to steal. So, yeah, you really have to be careful with them. Even a regular squirrel in the park. In New York, for example, we tried to take pictures with a squirrel, and then someone told us, guys, almost all the squirrels here are infected and carry a bunch of diseases. Another important point is swimming, especially swimming in bodies of stagnant water. There are so many creatures living in that water, you probably couldn't even imagine. For example, there's an amoeba, you're swimming, accidentally get some water in your nose or mouth, it gets into your nose, and then it starts feeding on your brain. There are worms, like the guinea worm, which also gets into your body and slowly starts to develop there. And this kind of white string, like a white shoelace, can grow up to a meter long, lives inside your body, and causes absolutely nightmarish pain. It has to be caught and pulled out of the body. That's also quite a sight. If you want, look up videos on YouTube. You won't want to swim in still water after that. By the way, it's relevant in the sea too, especially in warm seas. And of course, my personal pain point, sunscreen. The sun is strong. The sun is unfamiliar to you, especially if you're not from a hot or southern country. Your skin reacts instantly. You barely have time to realize it, and you're already red all over and everything hurts. That's why you need sun protection, sunscreens with a high SPF, the higher the better. And don't forget, any exposed part of your body can get sunburned. From my personal experience after visiting Death Valley in the US, I still have scars on my shoulders from the burns I got many years ago. Even though I used sunscreen, it just wasn't enough. So I've been living with these burns practically my whole life. And of course, if you're traveling with children, remember that they get sick much more often than adults. That's why you need insurance, a separate first aid kit for your child, and just in case you're staying somewhere for a long time, find out the addresses of all the nearby children's clinics. The best doctors, so that if something happens, you don't have to search in a panic. You'll already know who to call and where to go to get your child help quickly and properly. And of course, stay healthy and enjoy every moment of your journey.